Good morning, everybody. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Dave Zellers. I'm the Director of Commerce for Montgomery County. I want to thank all of you for taking time today to be here and participate in this webinar with us. I also want to thank our communications department for helping set this up, as well as our two speakers, Rebecca Swanson and Merle Ochrach. The last time we tried to do one of these, some of you may have been there, although most weren't. It was back in the winter of 2019, and there was an ice storm that morning. Thankfully, we're all much more comfortable now in this new virtual environment. So it's good to be able to connect this way. We're going to be recording today's session as well. We will be posting the video online. So if you want to go back and look at something later, if you know folks who couldn't be here today, but would benefit from the information, we really would encourage you to share that out when we have it posted in the next couple of days. So for this morning, I want to give you a brief introduction, share a little bit with you about the Montgomery County Commerce Department and what we do. And then I want to turn things over to Rebecca to talk about the Redevelopment Authority and their economic development financing tools. And then we'll turn things over to Merle so she can talk about our Industrial Development Authority and their tax-exempt bond financing. We will make time at the end once both presentations have happened for questions. You can type your questions into the Q&A box. What we would ask is that when you type a question in, if it's for one particular person, if you just put their name first and then write down your question. But most importantly, and I'm going to emphasize this probably multiple times here in the next few minutes, this is not the only opportunity to talk to us today. As a matter of fact, we don't want it to be the only opportunity that you talk to us. So please feel free to follow up with us, whether it's later today, later this week, a month from now, whatever it might be. We really are here to help, and we really are here to talk with you, talk with your clients, get into more details about our programs, and really want to make sure that we have that relationship with you. So when you're ready to embark on a project or want to see a project come together, we're all part of this. So what is the Montgomery County Commerce Department, and what do we do? First and foremost, the Commerce Department is responsible for coordinating and supporting the economic and workforce development activities here in Montgomery County. Underneath the umbrella of the Commerce Department are multiple economic development authorities. You're going to hear from them today. And MontcoWorks, which many of you know, that's our workforce development board. MontcoWorks is responsible for providing funding for things like the PA Career Link, Montgomery County, our County Earn Center, as well as providing training dollars to individuals and companies. So I know for many of the businesses that are in this webinar today, or for those of you who have clients that are businesses you're here to learn more about, hiring right now is so critical. Getting folks trained up on new equipment, new skills is so critical. So that's, again, the conversation with us isn't just limited to any one thing. And it's also not limited just to us alone. We work with a wide array of partners here in the county as well. And we want to make sure that when you come to us, we can connect you with the people who can give you the best resources support possible. I know, for example, many of our chambers of commerce are on this webinar today. Some of our colleagues from the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania are here today as well. And again, we are all in this together to benefit our businesses, our entrepreneurs, our workforce, and our communities to really make Montgomery County the place to live, work, learn, and invest. So with that, these are our contacts, just some information. Again, you have to scribble all this down. We're going to post all this online. But the quickest and best way to get a hold of the Commerce Department, if you go to our homepage, montcopa.org/commerce, you'll see a link to our business assistance request form. And that's for businesses, that's for entrepreneurs, that's for our communities, whoever it might be. You have questions, you want to have a more in-depth conversation about a project you're working on, something you're considering, submit one of those forms. One of the staff will get back to you, typically within 24 hours. It might be a little longer over the weekend or the holidays, but we're going to get back to you and we're going to begin that dialogue. We'll make those connections for you to our other partners as well. Like I said, it's a continuing conversation. It's about relationship building with you, about your professional networks. If you're a banker here today with all of your clients as well, your accountants, your clients, for the businesses that are here today, we want to understand what all of your needs are, and we're happy to have those conversations and connect you up with what you need. So with that, I'm going to stop for now. I'm going to turn things over to Rebecca Swanson, our outstanding Executive Director of our Redevelopment Authority, who's been with the county. I think we're going on 2 years now for Rebecca, and so glad that she's with the Redevelopment Authority. And then she's going to turn things over to Merle. Let me stop sharing my screen here. And Rebecca,
Good morning, everyone. I am Rebecca Swanson. I'm the Executive Director of the Redevelopment Authority. I'm going to attempt to share my screen so I can just do a quick overview. 1 second. Of what the RDA does and how we can help businesses, developers, all of our residents, all of our small businesses, entrepreneurs, our municipalities, our communities work on economic development. One of the main things the RDA does, we are an independent governmental agency in the county, but we work very closely with the, hold on, I'm gonna do this. Oop, there we go. We work very closely with the, sorry about that. Need to go backwards on my, hold on. Let's try this again. There we go. We work very closely with the Commerce Department, our municipalities, our developers, and our nonprofit organizations to support economic development. Our main role here in the county is to be the conduit for all state, federal, and local funding sources. So we have access to a number of funding sources that we help developers, property owners, businesses just add to their capital stack. These public funds can really make or break a project. Even if it's a little bit of money, it goes a long way in helping some of our projects really kind of get over the finish line. And some of them just aren't workable financially without some public funds. And that's what we're here for, to support, to be creative, and to come up with ways that we can help businesses expand, grow, move into the county, to help facilitate the construction of housing, affordable housing, to really revitalize our downtowns and our main streets, and then really just improve the quality of life in all of our communities. So I'm going to go quickly through what some of the various options that we have for starting with business development funding. One of our kind of flagship programs is the MontcoForward Loan Program. It's just a couple years old. It's a really great, flexible use of funds. It's up to $1 million, low interest. We're trying to keep it under 3%. So obviously, very much, it's cheaper than bank money right now. It's long-term, 10 to 15 years, depending on the project that you're using it for. And there's really a wide variety of uses. So that it's, and again, I want to emphasize the flexibility of that. We want to work with borrowers to get them into the program at an interest rate and a term and a use and an amount that works for them and can help move their projects forward. As an example, we've used it for equipment purchases. People have looked into it for land acquisition, building acquisition. So again, if this is something that, reach out and we can look at the guidelines and see if the project would be eligible. A very similar product is the PETA loan. It's the Pennsylvania Industrial Development Authority through the Department of Community and Economic Development. It's also a long-term, depending on the type of the project. It's a little bit more money. It's up to $2.25 million. Plus you can also, there's access to working capital as well. And again, a wide variety of uses. The interest rate is usually around prime. But this is the Montgomery County RDA, as the Certified Economic Development Organization, or the CEDO for the county, we are the main applicant for a state program like that. Another one, this one's a little bit more complicated, but the Redevelopment Assistance Capital Program, or RACP, it's through the Office of the Budget. It's a reimbursement grant for large projects. There's a lot of steps involved, but we are very happy as the RDA to serve as a grantee, assist with the application, and walk through the process. These are larger grants, a lot of work involved, but again, it's can really improve the capital stack and make a project work. So we'd be happy to kind of walk through what that entails. And this is new and very exciting. It's the State Small Business Capital Initiative, the SSBCI. The RDA was just awarded, the governor announced it last week, $2 million for a revolving loan fund to support small, very small, and minority and women-owned businesses. It's really exciting that we have these funds. We really want to focus on our businesses who could just use a little bit of extra support with a low interest loan. So that's something we're going to be doing a lot more outreach, a lot more education, webinars. The guidelines, the eligibility requirements, and the application will be released by the end of the year, and there will be a lot of follow-up webinars and some information sessions on those as we determine the state and the federal government determine what the final guidelines will look like. We also have environmental cleanup funds that have been really, really useful for our projects, you know, in the municipalities in the county that have this long-term industrial history where the sites need extensive environmental assessment and remediation, and that can be very expensive. So we have two EPA funded programs to support property owners who seek to develop on land with known or possible contamination. We have a EPA brownfields assessment grant, and that can be used for phase 1 and phase 2 assessment work. So you can just figure out what needs to be done. We also have a revolving loan fund that we were just very lucky to receive an additional $1 million into that fund. And that is, again, low interest loan to property owners and for remediation work for the actual cleanup. Those are specific to the RDA. We have those, that money is sitting here, and we can work directly with applicants to see if what the eligibility looks like. We also facilitate the state's program for environmental assessment and remediation, and that's the Industrial Site Reuse Program, or ISRP, through DCED, and that's something, again, we can help with the application and help determine eligibility. We also have CPACE, which is known as the Commercial Property Assessed Clean Energy Program. That's now a bit of a misnomer because the governor just signed this summer an expansion of the program to multifamily residential and mixed use projects as well, which is really exciting. CPACE is, if you haven't heard of it, it's a really innovative funding mechanism where you can get a loan, you know, up to $10 million, you know, or, you know, I think the average is around $1 million for any work on a project that is improves energy efficiency, water conservation, or in the new expansion, indoor air quality projects, so ventilation, HVAC, things like that, resiliency work, so anything that would protect a building against the effects of climate change, so flood mitigation, wind resistance, and anything like that, particularly for our municipalities that are along the river. It's that is a really important expansion. And again, it was recently expanded to include mixed use and multifamily buildings with more than 5 units for any of those types of projects within those buildings. So Montgomery County commissioners were approved this expansion of the program in August. We're making us the first county in the state to be ready to go with taking applications for the new expanded program. So this is one where you reach out to us. We have a third-party administrator to calculate all of the scientific part of energy savings, the improvements to air quality, things like that. And then we help connect to capital providers and get the loan finalized, closed, and then the way the loan is paid back, which makes it such an innovative program, is it is paid back as an assessment on the property as opposed to loan debt, and it can run with the property, can be passed on to tenants, and we've had developers large and small and property owners large and small want to use it for everything from new elevators to LED lighting and solar power. So it's a very flexible program, and we'd be happy to talk more about that. And then what role can you play? There's, we, like Dave said earlier, we have a ton of community partners, both our municipal governments, our nonprofits, our economic development organizations, our chambers of commerce. So we want to make sure that all of our property owners, developers, business owners, they are aware of all of these projects when they're, coming to their bank, or they're talking to their accountant, they're talking to their attorneys. How can I make this project work? What kind of construction loan can I get? What kind of loan can I get to purchase equipment? Make sure they know there's public funds available they may be eligible for, and that's a conversation to have with the RDA. So as the county continues to have new evolving programs, again, with that as the SSBCI as an example, the new expanded CPACE as an example, always attend our information sessions, our webinars, learn more about our products and how they can fit your client's needs, and then reach out. If you have a client who you think might be eligible or could use some assistance in the capital stack with some public funds, reach out to the RDA or the Commerce Department, and we can help walk you through what programs might fit those needs and that your clients may be eligible for. So with that, Dave and Kelly, I don't know if you want to take questions now or at the end, but if we are...
We're going to take them at the end. Let's let Merle present.
All right, well then I'm going to pass this over to Merle from the Industrial Development Authority.
Merle, you're muted.
Thank you. Yes, I'm Merle Ochrach. I'm a partner at Hamburg Rubin. Thank you for having me here. And I was just saying that I really found that informative, Rebecca. Thank you. I think some of my clients will definitely find the information she shared to be helpful. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about industrial development authorities this morning. I've represented Montgomery County IDA since 2014. I also represent 6 local municipal IDAs for many years. Industrial development authorities, their purpose is to help improve the economy in the locality where they are formed. And Montgomery County IDA does that through tax-exempt financing, which it facilitates as an issuer. It also has been involved in the past in other programs like their county loan program that was low interest, and currently is actively involved with the Ben Franklin Technology Partners. And that largely is geared to financing of new technological innovations and manufacturing in Montgomery County. And the IDA helps provide financing for that. So if anyone is an interest, we can help facilitate with that. So IDAs in Pennsylvania are formed pursuant to the Pennsylvania Economic Development Act. And that sets out parameters for how we form the entities and how they are run, and they're subject to other state statute, but also to the Federal Internal Revenue Code, which dictates parameters for tax-exempt financing. So moving on to the types of companies that are involved that can be financed under tax-exempt loans. We have 50C 501c3 companies, which, I have some examples of the types of different projects that have been financed through local IDAs in the past. Charter schools are a big one. Religious schools, but here I would caution that they have to be schools that will permit anyone to attend, regardless of, religious beliefs or no religious beliefs. We cannot finance any part of the religious or worship areas of a building. So no sanctuaries or chapels, but the school facilities can be financed. Various health-related programs have been financed, whether it be mental health, drug rehab, ambulances, nonprofit hospital facilities. Also continuing care communities, things that may be for seniors. Some have related medical facilities with them, as long as they're 501c3 companies as opposed to private entities. We've also financed professional or industry associations like the Heritage Chemical Building, which is down in Center City, Philadelphia. YMCAs, I've been involved in IDA financing for some of the local YMCAs in the county. Nonprofit colleges or universities, often they're acquiring land, expanding improvements on their buildings or acquiring new equipment, and we can finance those. Manufacturing facilities are another type of entity that can be financed. We love to have manufacturing come to our county and expand in the county. Unfortunately, that doesn't happen so much. So we don't do a lot of manufacturing financing, but we can do that. And just so that you are aware of what is meant, and that's on the next slide, Kelly, so that you're aware of what's meant by manufacturing, it has to be taking some material and turning it into something different, whether it be raw material or other components. You can't just be assembling. So you can't take pieces and put together a chair or a table, but if you are actually preparing the materials and treating the materials and forming the materials and then building the furniture with it, that would be manufacturing. Examples here are if you take rolls of paper and you turn them into paper bags, that is likely to be manufacturing. If you take conduit that comes on spools and you just cut it into lengths, that would not be manufacturing. Printing likely qualifies, but not photocopying. Food handling, meaning processing and cleaning, that would work. We can also finance utilities like electric, gas, sewer, solid waste disposal, hazardous waste disposal, and certain types of transportation improvements like mass transportation. The benefits of tax-exempt financing through the IDA would be that banks can offer lower rates of interest, and they can do that because under the Internal Revenue Code regulations that apply, their interest income is deductible. And if they get to do that, they have a bigger earnings here without paying the tax on that. So they can offer a lower rate to the borrower. And, I mentioned banks. Sometimes we have a bank loan through which the tax-exempt financing is facilitated, and that we would call a negotiated transaction. But we also do bond transactions that are tax-exempt, and those would usually be through an underwriter and a financial consultant to the borrower. And the authority, the IDA, would issue tax-exempt bonds, which are either sold to one or more institutional purchasers or to the public at large. the benefit to the borrower of getting a lower rate is perhaps they can afford to take a larger loan, or it might just be the difference that helps them qualify for the financing. And we found that the rates currently would be approximately 20 to 22% lower than a taxable loan. And that can be significant over the life of a loan, whether it be 10 or 20 years. Bond financing can be up to 30 years. That's another benefit, is that if you're looking for long-term financing, that usually is available here. Particularly on large loans, you see the benefit of these savings. And while the IDA is involved, which is a governmental agency, the IDA is not the lender. It's either the sale of the bonds that produces the funds or through a bank. The IDA is not a guarantor. They're not using their own funds at all. The uses of tax-exempt financing can be for land acquisition, making improvements to the land, acquiring equipment. The costs of the issuance can be financed up to 2% of the amount of the debt that's issued, or refinancing of qualified tax-exempt debt that's existing. So then there's a process that we have to go through, because everything comes with a little bit of effort there. The Department of Community and Economic Development has several applications that may apply if you're looking for new funds, new money that haven't been issued before. There's a single application for assistance that has to be completed and filed with DCED. If it's the case of a refinancing, then there is a refinancing application that can be used in appropriate circumstances. The IDA has to advertise and hold a hearing. It's called a TEFRA hearing, so that the public and the local community is aware of the project being financed, and the public can participate in those meetings. We post those, we advertise them on the website if required. We advertise them in local newspapers. So we obtain the approval of the Industrial Development Authority. We also have to obtain the approval of the local host municipality or the county where any of the collateral property is located or the project is located. So again, everyone has notice of the types of things that are going on. And while we have these hearings, this is related to the financing. It in no way relates to approval of the project for zoning or land use. That happens in the local municipal boards. So the bond counsel would also be involved here, and the bond counsel would make a determination and issue an opinion that the financing qualifies to be tax exempt. And one of the analysis or issues that they're going to review is that there is a geographic nexus between the issuer of the bonds or note and the project. So if you have maybe a charter school serving K through 6th grade, that typically would be very localized and probably serving 1 or 2 municipalities. So a local IDA that the charter school is situated in might be able to do that financing, or the county IDA would be appropriate. But an IDA in another county would likely not be appropriate, because that local lower level school is not going to draw students and probably not staff from those further geographic areas. So they don't impact them economically or with regard to jobs. So the nexus is going to be tighter. If you have a regional university or college, typically they're seeking out students throughout the Delaware Valley, and they have professors that come from throughout the region. So the analysis there may permit the college to be located in one county, but financed through an IDA in another county, because again, staff, professors, students are going to be coming from those areas. So it affects a larger economic scope. And, that depends somewhat on the bond counsel involved and how strictly they interpret that requirement. So while we're going about, doing all these notices and getting approvals from the IDA and the host municipality or the county, other documentation is going on at the same time. Bond counsel is reviewing the transaction, having the borrower complete questionnaires, documenting that the uses are going to be appropriate to meet the requirements for tax exempt financing. And then either the counsel for the underwriter or the bank is going to be preparing the loan documentation, the note or bonds, the indenture or loan agreement, whatever is appropriate for the transaction. So all of that is going on in the meantime. And when once we have the approval from the IDA and the application prepared, we file that with the Department of Community and Economic Development for them to review. And they have 20 days from receipt of a completed application in which to review and approve that. And really, they're very efficient there, and we've never had any issue with timely having approval. And if you're in a tight time crunch, they're usually very helpful in trying to get the approval turned around quickly. But that is absolutely required in order to go through with the tax exempt financing. If there is a concern with timing on financing, I would say that the shortest comfortable time period would be 6 weeks. And that would mean that everyone has to stick strictly to the time schedule and move very quickly. If, in a more comfortable, relaxed situation, we, see loans taking 2 to 3 months, which is not atypical for any loan process. But that's basically what's involved here. And, we just urge anyone who thinks they may be eligible to get in touch with the IDA or myself. And we'd be glad to talk to you briefly about your proposed transaction and give you some idea of whether we believe we can finance it, talk about your timing and costs and things like that. But, it has been a very good tool, and the IDA is here and available both for tax exempt financing and to help with other programs that they're involved in. At times they've been involved in actually issuing small grants for community type projects. And they're always willing to listen to anything that might have a positive economic impact or improve the employment situation in the county. And that's all I have, Dave. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Merle, and thank you, Rebecca. Again, I appreciate you both being here this morning. I'm sure everyone who's attending has learned quite a bit. I see we do have some questions, which is great. So I will attempt to read these off, and we will go through them one by one. I think the first question here is a good one for Rebecca to answer. Kyle asked, hi, as an energy efficiency business in Montco, are we able to promote or be an optional vendor for CPACE?
So absolutely. If you are a company, and my understanding of the question is that you do that as the company that does that type of work, absolutely talk to your, when you're working with clients about that type of work in a building, in an existing building or in a new construction. Absolutely connect them, with the RDA, and then we work with our own third-party administrator to determine the actual energy savings. But letting your clients know that this funding is available for your type of work is a great partnership, and we would love to see more of that. I know in some of the most recent CPACEs we've done, who have done solar panels on their roof, it was the solar company that directed them to us. So that's a huge help.
Thanks, Rebecca. John here asked, he said he was late. I hope he brought something for everybody if he was late. He asked if the recording will be available afterwards. We have another question as well from Bernadette asking if the PowerPoint decks will be available. Yes, we're going to get all that posted here. I have Merle's PowerPoint already. Rebecca will send me hers. Kelly will get us the video, and we'll get everything posted on, if not later today, certainly tomorrow or by the end of the week on the Commerce Department homepage. There'll be a link to all the information from today's webinar for folks to have. George asked, do we need to approach and educate a bank of your programs, or do you have a list of banks that know what they're doing? So I'll say this, we want every bank to know about our programs, and we are constantly working, particularly with our chambers of commerce, to push that information out. If you come across a bank and you don't, they don't know about us yet, or they haven't worked with us before, we want to have a broader conversation. So please don't hesitate to introduce them to us or connect us. It happens quite a bit. And when we say bank, look, I mean, nowadays, our credit unions too, I don't want to leave them out. There's been a lot more business lending for credit unions in recent years, particularly with the banks too. I mean, we know right now, with the deals that they're looking at, sometimes, they need gap financing. We know that. Our rates, particularly on MontcoForward, are a little lower or somewhat lower than the SBA rates right now, and we can be as flexible as you'd be in those cases. So, like I said, it's about getting the deal done. So we want everybody to help us to educate the banks and tell the banks, well, if you haven't talked to those guys yet, you need to talk to the Commerce Department. And again, for the banks that we do talk with, we want to keep having those conversations as things evolve and change. I have another question here from Rebecca. Alvin asked, would a nonprofit college qualify for CPACE?
Yes, nonprofit organizations do qualify for CPACE. So we could definitely have a more in-depth conversation about the application and what the work would be. So reach out. And
Kyle asked, as a follow-up, do you have any CPACE resources we can use to promote CPACE to our clients? Yes, Kyle, we do.
Yeah.
We have a brochure on the Commerce Department homepage. But I'll tell you what, Kyle, if you email myself or Rebecca, we will send you that today. And we'll put our email addresses here in the Dropbox, or I'm sorry, in the chat box, so everybody can see those. And then we have a question here from.
And I'll add, Dave, I'm sorry, I'll add to that. We are finalizing the new guidelines for the expanded CPACE. As soon as those have gotten all the necessary approvals, we'll be sharing those as well. And they'll be up on the website that explains the new uses of CPACE.
Okay, and then we got we have a question from Ira. Ira's question is, I think Rebecca and Merle, I'll give you both a chance to answer this one. What economic development assistance programs are available for emerging biotech companies in Montco, other than for buildings?
Well, certainly the Ben Franklin Technology Partners loan program. If you're a startup, where it might be hard for you to get traditional financing because you don't have, a history, a financial history. Ben Franklin not only provides loans a lot more easily in those situations, they also provide like support and counseling to people to assist them in those endeavors. So the IDA is involved in providing financing for those types of projects in Montgomery County through Ben Franklin, but they do a great job of supporting those types of startups.
Yes, and I would just say the MontcoForward loan can be used if there's equipment needed, very specific to the biotech industry. It can be used for that. We can take a look at the guidelines, see what you're planning on using the funds for. And I'd give a shout out to the Commerce Department as well, just for general business support and technical assistance and workforce development. Dave, I don't know if you want to give a little what we can,
oh, sure.
what we can provide outside of money.
Yeah, and Ira did follow up with this question here, said they are a Ben Franklin company, which is great to hear.
Oh, okay.
Obviously, like I said, we have our workforce development component as well. Monco works, and they can help with a variety of things. What I would say, Ira, is the other thing is underneath the state's PETA program is a working capital component where you can borrow for working capital as well. So that's another possible opportunity, getting beyond the physical structure of buildings to help. There's also, and you are a Ben Franklin company, so this is timely. Through Rebecca mentioned SSBCI during her presentation, a large tranche of that SSBCI money that the Commonwealth received is going to the Ben Franklins as well for some of investments in the companies they work with already. So follow up with your contact at the Ben Franklin. I'm sure they're working on their guidelines as well right now and how those dollars can be utilized through their auspices as well. We have a question here from George. I know George was a little late today. He asked what CPACE is. I'll answer that real quickly, Rebecca, since you've had to say it a couple times today. CPACE is the Commercial Property Assessed Clean Energy Program. This is a low interest, long-term financing mechanism that's administered by the RDA with the support of the Sustainable Energy Fund for properties to have energy efficient investments made. It could be solar panels. It could be energy efficient lighting. The governor recently signed a law that expanded the eligibility of CPACE as well. So if you have more questions about that, I encourage you to follow up and we can give you that information on the program. Deb asked a question here, which is a really important one, and I'm glad that she did. Deb asked, what about minorities? We don't have good experience with lenders. This is one of the things that really at the Commerce Department we are very aware of through our partners throughout the county. It goes back to the grant programs that we did during the pandemic. As I'm sure folks are aware, during the pandemic, the county awarded $42 million in grants to small businesses and nonprofits. And we know that a great many of the minority-owned businesses in the county struggled to put together the application. So what can we do to help address that and make sure that minorities have better experiences with lenders and can also grow here in Montgomery County? A couple things are being looked at right now. First and foremost is last week we announced a new partnership with the Pennsylvania Small Business Development Centers, and they're going to be deploying a business consultant to our offices in Norristown. What the SBDCs do is work with all businesses, and they provide a variety of free services, particularly to help businesses such as those that need to get their documentation in order to work with lenders. And we know that that's a challenge for some of the smallest businesses in any community right now. Additionally, and this is why we want to work with banks so much, we want to understand where the gaps in financing are. We know some banks, given their parameters for underwriting, they might not be doing loans right now below a certain amount. Where can we come in and keep adjusting our programs to fill those gaps? Also at the county, here locally, we're served by a number of CDFIs. Those are community development finance institutions. Our colleague who runs the PA CDFI network, I know she's here today as well, attending the webinar. And they can help work with minority business, particularly to fill in those financing gaps. And lastly, for us at the county, we have an ongoing conversation about what can we do with our programs. Is it creating specialized programs to help those minority businesses? Some of the money that was set aside from the county's, or the funds the county received from ARPA, are being looked at to help minority businesses in the space that we're in right now. And as Rebecca said, the SSBCI funds will be tailored as well to help those eligible businesses at the time. So be on the lookout for more information on those programs. We have a question from Michael here, and I'm glad he asked this question too, because this is an important question. He says, I own an emerging food brand that was started in Conshohocken, and I want to build a food processing manufacturing plant in Monco. Which program is best? Michael, I'm not going to give you an answer to that right now, and here's why. Because we want to have a conversation with you about that. We want to understand your project and what your particular needs are. We want to understand what other financing you already have secured for your project. Maybe we can help you find a site for that project. So follow up with us and we can have staff can have a more detailed conversation with you, because every project is unique. So it's sometimes what's best for one project, one program or two programs, or whatever it might be, isn't going to be best for for every single project. There's no one program that fits every specific need that exists out there. Everything, like I said, is very unique. So I'm glad you asked that question because it's an important question. I see we have a question here from
Dave,
Varsovia.
before you go on,
Oh, go ahead, Merle.
well, I would just say that sometimes we can parcel together various programs to help you maximize the benefit. So it may be that you get a loan from one program, a grant from another, or one segment, like maybe an equipment loan is available at a lower rate than land acquisition loan. So really, we do have to look at the facts, as Dave said, to see what is appropriate.
Absolutely. No, glad you said that, Merle. We have a question here from our colleague I mentioned, Varsovia, asking about the CDFIs. And again, we want to work with the CDFIs closely. We want them to work well with us as also, and we look forward to continuing to build those relationships to make sure that everyone's swimming in the same direction here in Montco. And then we have a question here from Deb, and Deb is asking, most lenders are going by credit. What if your credit's not good? And again, that's where, we recognize there are gaps in the financing system. How can we use our programs? How can we work with the Commonwealth as they're developing new programs at the state level also to help fill in those gaps and help those businesses whose credit maybe isn't quite as good? Because the last few years have definitely put a lot, not just on business credit, but personal credit for business owners. We know so many small business owners that went out of their way to support their business, even with the grants they might receive or the federal PPP loans, whatever it might have been. It was a real tough time for their finances, and coming out of this, still tricky. So, one of the advantages of economic development financing traditionally, again, we love to be gap financing. We love to help banks get a deal done. And what we tell banks and what we want folks to know is, look, we can help when the credit maybe isn't quite as good. We can help limit that risk and fill in that gap. That's really traditionally what economic development financing has been best at. So it's really about everybody coming together. Each project, as I said, very unique and working to solve the problem and get another deal done. So with that, we have all of our questions here answered. So I think what we'll do, we'll wrap it up and give everybody some time back in their day. As I said, first of all, this is all going to be posted online here on the Commerce Department homepage. Secondly, we want to have follow-up conversations. I know we covered a lot here this morning. You don't have to follow up with us today or tomorrow. If you need time, think about it. Third, we hope and we really look forward to continuing to broaden our network of partners. We want to work with everybody. That's what we're here to do. And so again, I'll leave you with one other thought, something Merle said earlier about timelines. Look, come to us as soon as you start thinking about something. The sooner you come to us and you get the information you need, you can evaluate it with the professionals and the people that you trust. If you're trying to put a project together, you can go through the application process without having to panic or without having to worry that it's all going to get done at the last minute. So often those timelines are what can trip things up along the way. So again, thank you for coming this morning. We very much appreciate it. We hope to be able to do more of these sessions in the future. And thank you very much. Have a good day, everybody. Take care.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.